Hey folks, it's Steven Rondina from WinGG here, and I'm here to talk to you today about the best cheap games on the Nintendo Switch. Now, one of the big problems with the Nintendo Switch is the fact that the games never actually go down in price. When you look at the Xbox or the PlayStation, you can find a lot of really great games for $20 or less, pretty much throughout the entire lifespan of the console. That's not the case with the Nintendo Switch, and even launch titles will maintain their price until the very death of the console. The good news is that the Nintendo Switch eShop and other digital retailers do offer up some high quality games at significantly lower prices. There do need to be some guidelines when it comes to picking out the best cheap Nintendo Switch games. All of these games that we're about to talk about are normally listed in the Nintendo eShop at $20 or less as of this writing. Sales can push the price of these games down further, but we're not going to be looking at any games that start above $20. While you might be able to find a game like Mario vs. Rabbids at $20 during the holiday season, we're not going to be talking about this since you're probably not going to be getting it at that price at any other time of the year. We're also not going to be including any free-to-play games, though Fortnite and Pokemon Unite are both enjoyable. This also includes all games on the Nintendo Switch. Most of these games are available on other platforms, but each one is strong on the Nintendo Switch and performs well on the platform. So let's get into the games. Starting us off at number 10 is Snipper Clips. This is a game that was actually a launch title for the Nintendo Switch, but it remains one of the best indie offerings on the console even today. Snipper Clips was one of the early standout exclusives for the Nintendo Switch thanks to its all-ages cooperative gameplay. Players are tasked with trimming pieces of paper into a specific shape and completing various tasks with them. This might sound simple, but it gets progressively more challenging with time. This is perfectly suited for anyone looking for a casual game that can be played with friends or family, and it's a great option for anyone looking for something fun on a rainy day. Moving on to number 9 is Hollow Knight. Now there's a very long list of really great Metroidvania games on the Nintendo Switch, mostly because there are actually Metroid games on there. But if you're looking for something different, Hollow Knight is the best way to go. Hollow Knight is widely regarded as one of the best games in its genre, and for good reason. Most of the games on this list are available on all modern gaming platforms, with Hollow Knight being among them. But whether it's on the Steam Deck, the PlayStation, or any other platform, it's worth getting this game, and having it on the Switch means being able to play it anywhere at any time. Moving on, we reach Katana Zero. Now, most of the Nintendo Switch games are actually all ages friendly, but that's definitely not the case here. This game is a bloodbath in the same vein as Hotline Miami, and it's one of the best games that you can get on the Nintendo Switch at a low price. Katana Zero is a blend of Hotline Miami and Ninja Gaiden. On paper, it's a bloody action game that has you slice up enemies in terrifying fashion, but in practice, it's actually more of a puzzle game, asking you to trial and error your way through each stage with the skills you have available at the time. There's room for creativity in terms of how you approach each level, and it's incredibly satisfying to work your way to the end. At a budget price, this one is a very strong pickup. Now at this point, you might be wondering if all of these games are going to end up being 2D indie darlings. And for the most part, yes, a lot of them are, but there are a lot of really good ports from other platforms that have made it to the Nintendo Switch, including this one, Bioshock Remastered. Bioshock Remastered is a port of the horror FPS from 2007. Though some shooters from this era haven't aged well, Bioshock is basically timeless. Players are dropped into the underwater dystopia of Rapture and forced to fight their way back to the surface, dealing with the terrifying Big Daddy bosses along the way. Bioshock, Bioshock 2, and Bioshock Infinite are all available on the Nintendo Switch at a similar price point. Each of these games qualifies as a strong buy, but for those looking for the best value, you can get them as a bundle at a lower price. Before we move on to number 6, feel free to give us a like, comment, and subscribe. If we're helping you out, give us a like. If you have any questions, or if you want to talk about your own favorite Nintendo Switch games that happen to be cheap, feel free to leave a comment. And finally, make sure you subscribe to keep up with all of our gaming content. In number 6, we have Overcooked. Now, a lot of Nintendo Switch games that are cooperative are meant to bring you together with whoever you're playing with. Some games have the opposite effect though, and that's the case with Overcooked. This game is a bit of a friendship ender, but it's still absolutely worth getting if you're looking for a good game to pick up. Overcooked is a delightfully fun game where players are tasked with working together in a restaurant. Players need to pass around ingredients, prepare them, and send them out to customers. This starts out straightforward, but gets progressively wackier as the game progresses. Players wind up needing to deal with a variety of obstacles that become progressively more wacky as you move on. Ingredients will disappear over time, parts of the kitchen will move around, and there's just sometimes a volcano right near you, lighting everything on fire. This game can be played single player, but the definitive way to do it is with a friend. Alongside Overcooked Special Edition, Overcooked 2 is also available on the Nintendo Switch, and you can get them together as a bundle. So next up we have Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. There are a lot of great beat-em-ups from yesteryear that live on in digital storefronts like the Nintendo Switch eShop. The good news is that there are some good new originals that also end up making it onto the platform, including this one. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, was an indie darling when it launched as a tie-in to the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World movie. Unfortunately, it wound up in licensing limbo for a time, launching in 2010, but getting delisted from digital storefronts in 2014. The game made a surprising comeback in 2021 and stands as one of the best party action games for modern consoles. Instead of being a typical half-hearted licensed game, this captures the energy of the comics as an arcade beat-em-up. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, is cut from the same cloth as Konami classics like The Simpsons and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 1990s. These games are as fun now as they were then, and it's definitely worth checking out Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, if this sounds like something that you'd be interested in. So next up, we have Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition. There are a lot of great PS1 era RPGs from Square Enix that have gotten ported to the Nintendo Switch over time. The good news is that Chrono Cross actually has gotten a full remaster treatment, similar to what we saw with Final Fantasy VIII. Chrono Cross was seemingly forgotten about after its initial release in 1999. The sequel to Chrono Trigger was controversial at the time, but is generally regarded as a strong Japanese RPG today. Fans panned the limited references to Chrono Trigger, but it maintains one key similarity in its strong replayability. The Japanese RPGs often get beaten once and then collect dust on the shelf for the rest of time. That isn't the case here. Chrono Cross has a number of different endings that make it worth tackling a few times over, and that also makes it one of the best values overall on the Nintendo Switch eShop. So next up at number 3 we have Sonic Mania. Now the Sonic name carries a bit of baggage at this point, given how many bad games there have been in the franchise over the last 20 years. The good news is that Sonic Mania is actually one of the best platforms in recent years. Sonic Mania is likely the best game in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise since Sonic and Knuckles. Many Sonic games since the death of the Genesis have either aged terribly or were very bad from the start, but Sonic Mania actually captures the energy of the classic Sonic the Hedgehog titles that made us fall in love with the series. Sonic Mania was put together by fan and game designer Christian Whitehead, who wound up working for Sega in an official capacity. After working on ports of Sonic 1, 2, and CD, he directed a new original Sonic game with Sonic Mania. The result was a bold experience that feels like the original, but features new, innovative designs that also keeps it feeling very modern. If you're a fan of Sonic games from yesteryear, make sure you check out Sonic Mania because it's going to be a great value. And of course, make sure you keep an eye out in the future for Sonic Origins, which is coming out later this year. At number 2, we're going to be talking about a classic of its era, Okami. This is a game that's been ported more times than Skyrim at this point, but the good news is that it really should be, because it's a game that deserves to live on. Okami was widely regarded as a Zelda killer for the PlayStation 2. That didn't really pan out since The Legend of Zelda remains monolithic all this time later, but Capcom still put together a classic action game that holds up 16 years after its release. Okami mostly stands out due to its unique graphical style, but it's not just another pretty game. It's a whimsical action-adventure title that can basically match any other game in its genre. On top of that, it has an epic story with fun characters to make this a roundly great experience. Okami was originally a PlayStation 2 game, and it's been ported to a wide variety of platforms since then. It's a perfect fit for the Nintendo Switch, and it's especially nice to play on the OLED model if you happen to have it. And what else will we talk about in the number 1 spot but Stardew Valley? This game is one of the best of its era, and it's going to live on for a long time, and thankfully, it's living on the Nintendo Switch as one of the best cheap games that you can get. Though Animal Crossing New Horizons is one of the top-selling games on the Nintendo Switch, it's not the only great life sim out there on the platform. In fact, a strong case can be made that the modern classic Stardew Valley is actually the king of the genre now. Farming games have always been a staple of handheld gaming since Harvest Moon on the Game Boy. There's a long list of series and one-off titles that have popped up in the genre since then, but none have made as much of a splash as Stardew Valley. The game was an instant hit when it landed on Steam in 2016, and it's been slowly ported to every other major gaming platform since then. Stardew Valley is one of the best values in all of video games today. Despite having a $15 price tag, it can last you for hundreds upon hundreds of hours. This makes it comfortably the best cheap game on the Nintendo Switch today. And that's the end of the video. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to take it down below. And once again, make sure you subscribe to WinGG to keep up with all of our gaming content.